Honorable Court, this is the prosecution opening statement or speech. In this case of Republic of South Sudan versus Puot Kang and others, criminal case number 1533 of 2025. Honorable Presiding Justice and distinguished members of the bench.
Don't be running. Just give us a chance to write. Yes. Opening speech.
This is a prosecution opening speech. We are going to give you copies of the same, and I will try to be as slow as possible as well, my lords. So this is the opening speech. Republic of South Sudan versus Puot Kang and others. Criminal case number 1533 of 2025. Honorable Presiding Justice and distinguished members of the bench, with due respect and on behalf of the Republic of South Sudan, allow us to present this prosecution opening speech. On the 3rd through the 7th of March 2025, in Nasir County, Upper Nile State, the people of South Sudan and the world witness the gravest crimes that strike at the very heart of our constitutional order, endangered our national security, and traumatized and inflicted immeasurable suffering on the people of South Sudan. The government military garrison in which Yardio, Nasir was attacked and overrun by the White Army militia. The government forces that surrendered on their own and those that surrendered on the persuasion of the fifth accused person, Dr. Riek Machar, including the late David Majur, who was to be evacuated by a UN helicopter. Those injured and those captured alive were rounded up and executed at point blank. The dead were dragged around, and others dumped into the river, and others left to rot where they were executed. My Lord Justices, on April 20th, the South Sudan People's Defense Forces, SSPDF, regained the control of Nasir Town and Wich Yardio military garrison. At Wich Yardio garrison, they were welcomed by the dry bones of their slain comrades. An apocalyptic scene comparable to the biblical phrase of Valley of Bones. But here, my lords, it was a barbed wire garrison, a plain land of bones overlooking the silent and grieving river. The prosecution stands before you today on behalf of the people of the Republic of South Sudan to seek justice for these heinous crimes committed by the accused persons. My lords, justices, this case is about individual criminal acts or omissions or responsibilities of the accused persons. I emphasize individual criminal acts or responsibility of the accused persons. The accused persons are namely Puot Kang, Lieutenant General Gabriel Duop Lam, Mampal Dwar, Garawich Lampoch, Dr. Riek Machar Teny, Brigadier General Camilo Gadmichael, First Lieutenant Mading Riek Yak, and Lance Corporal Dominic Gadgok Riek, who are present before you here, and others who are at large. namely Lieutenant General Peter Tokchuo Luak, Major General Dilling Ker Cholkuj, Major General Peter Ruach Wibiem, Lieutenant General Ye Dak Wiu, Major General William Dengbom, Kang Makana, Major General Kong Miang, Kwang Terjes, Garawich Liam, Biel Wiu, James Galwak Liu, Brigadier General Hogdor Chuol, and Pal Mai Deng. My Lord Justices, investigations were conducted of over 100 people, and the rest were released. And only these were the ones the prosecution has presented before this court to have been found culpable in the criminal acts that they are being charged with. In due course, Mr. Presiding Justice and distinguished members of the bench, the prosecution shall seek the indulgence of this honorable court to permit the prosecution of those absent and at large in absentia. The honorable Presiding Justice and distinguished members of the bench, the incident in Nasir in March 2025, characterized by brutal mass murder in cold blood, inhumane treatment, and total disrespect of the dead, and total disregard of the laws of South Sudan remains unforgettable and regrettable stain in the conscience of this republic. My Lord Justices, the prosecution will demonstrate that these were not spontaneous attacks, but actions of well-organized, well-financed, brutal criminal scheme. A criminal scheme carried out by the accused persons as they incited, organized, abated, financed, and weaponized a militant group, the so-called White Army, to target SSPD personnel, civilians, and undermine the government. My Lord Justices, the prosecution will avail evidence that the White Army did not act independently. They were under the direct command of the fourth accused person, General Gabriel Duop Lam, Major General Dilling Ker, who is at large, and the fifth accused person, Dr. Riek Machar, and financed by the first accused person, Mr. Puot Kang and Mampal Dwar, the third accused person. The attacks by the White Army were planned, funded, coordinated, and commanded by some of the commanders of SPLA-IO. We emphasize some of the commanders of SPLA-IO. The commanders in Juba coordinating the assault were Lieutenant General Gabriel Duop Lam and Major General Dilling Ker. And on the ground in Nasir, the SPLA-IO officers commanding the White Army were namely the late Torgel Ton, Kang Makana, who is at large, Lieutenant General Peter Tokchuol, Brigadier General Manpinj Pal, Brigadier General Peter Palmut Yaj, Bol Doyak, and Major General Kong Moyang. This means the attacks were executed under the direct orders of the fifth accused person, who is the Commander-in-Chief of the SPLA-IO forces. The evidence the prosecution will present will establish this clear and undeniable claim and the chain of command. It will demonstrate that the militant White Army operated under the direct command and influence and the strategic direction of the accused persons before you and those at large. My Lord Justices, there is a false narrative that this trial is a political witch hunt against the fifth accused person, Dr. Riek Machar, and the other accused persons. Contrary to this claim, my lords, this trial is about the rule of law. It is about giving justice to the victims. It is about having a closer to the victims, fighting impunity, and setting a new departure that crimes must be punished, that there must be a new chapter of accountability for all, regardless of status. Albeit this, it is inversely an opportunity for the accused persons as well to clear their names. In this commitment to the rule of law, my lords, the accused persons before you are presumed innocent as per our Constitution until found guilty by this competent court. It is to this commitment that this trial is open to the public. Further, my lords, it is this commitment that the accused is duly represented by a competent defense team. And the Republic of South Sudan is willing and in position, given the nature of the offenses herein, to assign lawyers in addition, if need be, to defend the accused persons. The Honorable Justice and the distinguished members of the bench, the accused persons, Puot Kang and others, stand charged with treason, concealing treason, subverting the Constitution, insurgency, banditry, terrorism, terrorist financing, mass murder, destruction of protected property, treasury, attacks on United Nations personnel, unlawful seizure of a military garrison, and participation in an organized criminal act. These charges, my lords, are brought under the Penal Code Act 2008, the Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Terrorist Financing Act 2012 as amended in 2024, the National Security Service Act 2014 as amended in 2024, the SPLA Act 2009 as amended in 2020, and the Geneva Convention Act 2012. The prosecution will provide evidence proving beyond reasonable doubt that the accused persons committed the said crimes. And that the crimes are, 1, a crime of treason. Instead of paying allegiance to the Republic of South Sudan, the accused persons waged war against the state with intention to overthrow the constitutional government contrary to sections 64, 65, and 66 of the Penal Code Act. That the accused persons engaged in terrorist acts. The accused persons committed violence with the intention of causing forcible resistance to the government and to the defense forces and any lawful agencies, as well as possession and using dangerous weapons, contrary to sections 67, 70, 71 of the Penal Code Act. That the accused persons engaged in terrorist financing, the accused persons collected and provided funds with the knowledge that they would be used for terrorist purposes, contrary to section 14, 15, and 16 of the Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Terrorist Financing Act 2012 as amended in 2024. That they committed mass murder. The accused persons abated the brutal and inhuman killings of armed SSPDF and wounded personnel, including the late Major General David Major Dak, the commander of SSPDF in Nasir, a UN personnel member, and 257 SSPDF personnel in Nasir, in violation of the Geneva Convention and the Penal Code Act, sections 10 and 206, respectively. That they committed as well destruction of protected property by damaging UN-marked helicopters, destruction of military equipment and civilian assets, contrary to Section 67 of the Penal Code Act and the United Nations Convention on the Safety of United Nations and Associated Personnel, 1994. And that they committed treachery by consciously giving confidential information to the SPLA-IO commanders on the ground and in Juba, and withholding vital information from the SSPDF command, contrary to sections 64, 1, F, and G of the SPLA Act 2009 as amended in 2022. My lords, in terms of evidence, the evidence will point a picture of calculated violence that extended beyond military targets. It will detail gross violations of the Geneva Convention, including desecration of the dead and persecution of innocent civilians and UN workers. The prosecution will present a layered evidence strategy, beginning with testimonial evidence that will come from survivors, eyewitnesses, and protected witnesses who will recount the attacks, the planning meetings, and the consequences they endured. The prosecution will provide documentary and physical evidence like signed operational orders and autopsy reports. The prosecution, my lord, will provide digital forensic evidence like call records, WhatsApp communications, preserved, and authenticated in compliance with international standards and international evidentiary standards. The prosecution as well will present expert testimonies from forensic pathologists, from digital forensic specialists, from military experts that will assist this honorable court in understanding the technical aspects of these crimes. This evidence will be presented chronologically, from the planning to the funding to execution to the aftermath, ensuring that each strand corroborates the other and eliminates reasonable doubt. My lords, the prosecution will meet this with the independent corroboration of witness statements, forensic and biometric evidence, authenticated through metadata, hash measures, hash values, and expert verification. In terms of procedural standards, my lords, the prosecution will assure the court that every exhibit is supported by an unbroken chain of custody. Vulnerable witnesses will be protected, including through in-camera testimony when necessary. In conclusion, my lords, this trial is a testament to our nation's unwavering commitment to the rule of law and to breaking this cycle of violence and impunity. The accused persons have been informed of their rights and their right to fair trial. We operate in a strict adherence to our constitutional standards and our obligations under international law. This trial, my lords, is about accountability, justice, and the rule of law. The evidence will prove that accused persons deliberately conspired to wage war against the state, terrorize civilians, and undermine the peace and security of South Sudan. At the conclusion of this case, my lords, notwithstanding the presumption of innocence of the accused persons before this honorable court, the prosecution shall respectively request conviction on all principal charges and the imposition of sentences proportionate to the gravity of these crimes, consistent with South Sudan laws and international standards. Allow me, my lords, to return the mic to you, if any, for the defense team to exercise their right of reply to our statement, and thereafter to the investigator who shall journey us through the process of demonstrating the evidence that shall be demonstrated before this honorable court to prove the charges against the accused persons. With this, my lords, justices, the prosecution remains appreciative of your patience. I end. Thank you.